close to 10 years. In that time, I was a developer, a sysadmin, an architect, all kinds of roles as you grow in that environment. 6 years into my stint there, I moved into the libraries, and I was working with the libraries for all UT system and other Texas universities like Texas A&M. We fight, but we like each other, and we work together really well. And we were doing the Texas Digital Library, and it was really a repository of a lot of knowledge, a lot of papers, and also the workflow by which Texas University doctorate candidates were submitting their paperwork. So it was a huge repository. At the time, I was working on implementing DSpace, which was an MIT open source project that was a data repository. And working through that, I found what I thought was a quality engineering bug. It had to do with authentication and authorization. I didn't think twice. I fixed it. I submitted the pull request, and it was accepted. And so I felt like, cool, I submitted something to an open source project. Let me talk about it. In that talk, the Chief Information Security Officer was in the audience. And after the talk, he came to me and said, I think I've got a spot for you on my security team. And I was like, that's cool. I don't know anything about security. But that's where I cut my teeth. It was a team of 4 risk analysts that I was a part of, pen testers, advisory services, whatever it is that any of the entities at the university needed in order to secure, whether it was their building or their applications or you name it, we worked with them to do that. UT is a very distributed university, so every business unit, every college were our clients, and so it was very much a consultant type of work in that way. And so I became a security analyst in 2008, and I stayed there for an additional 3 years or so. Life and family happens, and my wife and I decided to have children, and so we needed more money, and the state doesn't pay. And so I had a ton of great experience. I learned a lot, but I needed to do something different for me and for my family. And so I moved into a security engineer and support developer role at Optaros, which is a small boutique development shop that does, at the time, a Magento and Drupal mashup for all of our clients so that they could do e-commerce and content management all within the same platform. And that worked really well. I managed teams out of Costa Rica, Ukraine, and in Austin, and then I was also the security engineer for the whole company. So securing all of our virtual machines, securing our platform, making sure that that Magento Drupal mashup was actually secure, both for the administrators, but then also for the end users, etc. So and I continued, this was more of a hybrid role, developer and security engineer. And then finally, I moved over to Bazaar Voice in 2012. Do you guys know Bazaar Voice, anybody? If you do any shopping and decide to do any review or rating of a product, not on Amazon, not on Walmart, they do their own things, but pretty much everybody else, you're using Bazaar Voice's product. And it's a JavaScript drop-in that then draws the DOM, or on the DOM, all of the functionality for that product. And I was the only security engineer of a company of about 1,000 with approximately 300 developers. And so it was a tall order, right? When I came in, they had no security program. And so I was lucky that I was that guy, because I got to build it all out from the development lifecycle to, again, physical security, policies, procedures, all of that stuff, right? When auditors came in, they put me in front of them. So I had to do it all. And I had to be embedded in the development teams as well, because we wanted to incrementally improve the security of your product. I was there for 2 years. As you may imagine, being the only security engineer takes a toll, right? And if you're pushing and pushing and pushing for a team to be built and it isn't being built, then you find yourself wanting to be somewhere else, right? Like, it's not a fun job to be the only person, because you've got no other people to collaborate to make you better. And that should always be what you're striving to, right? You want to make your company better, but you also want to make yourself better at the same time. And so luckily Rackspace had a spot for me, and I went in as a manager of quality and security engineering. At Rackspace, security engineering falls under quality engineering, and it's quality engineering, performance engineering, and security engineering. And I was managing those 3 teams. So I had security engineers, I had quality engineers, I had performance engineers that I was helping to secure all of the products, whether it was bare metal all the way to Docker from Rackspace, right? As we were putting them out there in the marketplace, we were making sure that we were testing them so that we felt that they were as secure as possible. Sometimes we did it all in-house. Sometimes we brought in outside help. All along this timeline, I was a Rapid7 client. So we had all the product at UT Austin, and then I brought it in at Optaros, I brought it in at Bazaar Voice. Believe it or not, I brought it in at Rackspace, which was a tall order. It took forever, but we did it. And because of that ongoing relationship, as you guys know, opportunities come up. And so I had always had my eye on Rapid7, local to Austin, see all the guys at meetups, know HD more, like all of those things said, this is where I want to be, right? I want to do nothing but security. Because no matter what role you've had along the way, you're always asked to do something outside of security all the time. And I didn't want that anymore. And so I moved over in August of 2016 to Rapid7 to help manage the penetration testing team on the services side. Since then, my role has kind of changed and gone back and forth, and now I lead the entire pen testing organization and the consultant development side for Rapid7. Consultant development because, as you'll see, we hire folks that weren't consultants, and we need to develop them as a consultant and as a pen tester. And so we need to do both sides of it, right? There's always the technical and the soft side of stuff. If I want to put somebody in front of a client, then they can't just be technical. They've got to be able to convey that risk to our clients. Okay, so that's me in a nutshell, or in a squiggly line. As I think about teams, I often think about baseball teams. I love baseball. I've played it since I was 3 years old. I still play it now. I coach my son's team. It's this little guy right here. And so baseball is always in my mind, right? I wake up, I look at scores. In the afternoon, I'm at practices, we're playing, or we're having our games. And to me, baseball is a great team sport and very much analogous to the stuff that I want to do at work with my teams. I know, it seems kind of funky, but it actually works. Because I think about who is the pitcher, right, that team lead, who's the catcher, that guy that has that knowledge of the team for a long time, who's my rookie right fielder, who's that star center fielder, right, who's that all-star shortstop. And you need all of those people on your team in order to make that team really successful, right? And guess what? The right fielder is actually good, right? It isn't just the worst player on the team that you put out there. You want to think about that team as you're building it. And this is what helps me. So I'm not saying you should think about it in baseball terms, but find that thing that you like, that you enjoy, that makes you think about a puzzle and apply it in a way that helps you to put your teams together, right? Because there's always that, right? All right. So as I started to think about a team that I was asked to build for Rapid7, when I came in, the director at the time said, listen, I need you to hire 12 pen testers for this team that you're going to have. And immediately I was like, 12? You're nuts, right? Like, it took you 6 months to find me. It's taken us on average 3 months to find the next pen tester for the team. How are we going to do 12 in 12 months? And he said, well, that's your challenge. And I said, okay, challenge accepted, right? Like, what else are you going to do? I just got here. I'm not going to say, well, I can't do it. So I took it on, and I said, okay, let's do it. And so I started to think about how I was going to build that team, who my shortstop, my pitcher, etc. And as I was thinking about it, I started to go back to all of the roles that I had that prepared me to be a security engineer or a pen tester along the way. And I wasn't going to find folks like me out in the marketplace unless I was willing to pay high money, right? Luckily, we're in an industry that pays as well. But unluckily, we're in an industry that pays well, so it's hard to put a team together given budgets, etc. And so rather than try and find individuals like me or the really experienced pen testers, I had the idea to say, let me bring in individual people that have held the roles that I have held along the way, that have an aptitude for security testing, that want to do it or want to learn it. And that's how I started to kind of say, okay, I think I can put this team together. Austin, luckily, is a tech hub, right? We've got all kinds of technology companies there, all kinds of technologists in the Austin area, whether they're developers, DevOps engineers, even data analysts, et cetera, right? I mean, they're everywhere there. There's all kinds of companies. And so I started to think about, like, who are the people that I want on my team that I think that can help each other to become pen testers and consultants. And so I put together, and this is just a short list. Really, it's a list of icons that I could find that made sense for the role, so that I can put it up on my slide. Developer, obvious, right? Sysadmin, data analyst, technical writer, malware analyst, quality engineer, ethical hackers, security analysts, network administrators, and the list goes on and on and on, right? Because every one of these roles I have to know in order to properly pen test my client's environment, right? If I don't know aspects of this, then I'm going to miss something. There's going to be a gap there. There's going to be risk that I didn't actually investigate, right? And so I then took this list and really started to say, great, but how are they going to help each other? And so this is what we'll talk about, right? Once I found the list, then I needed to talk to my talent acquisition team, right? Let them know exactly who I was looking for. Let them know where to look for them. Understand what kinds of teams, right, we needed to be, what companies I wanted to actually go after, what personalities, why we were doing it, right? You can't just expect your talent acquisition person your recruiter, to get it immediately. So it took ongoing conversations, right? And she started mining, and then she would put people in front of me and then be like, that one was close, but this is what's needed. And so having that continuous kind of feedback for that talent acquisition person to really understand what it is that you're looking for and why, right? And initially, it was way off the mark, right? It was like, nope, they're way too junior, right? A developer. They actually didn't even know what security testing might be, and so let's do a little bit better, right? Luckily, security is penetrating better into all of the other roles, right? And so I didn't have to find individuals that knew nothing about security. We wanted to find individuals that already had a security component to the role that they had, right? That were already in a secured development lifecycle, or they were already part of the change management team, or they were already part of the risk management team, or the audit team, or the acquisition and mergers team, right? Like all of these components or all of these roles have a security component that helps you to kind of start in the right direction. So she started to do a great job. She started putting in front a lot of people that made a lot of sense. A product tester from Plantronics, a technical writer from the state, a malware analyst, local, a recent graduate but had already been super involved in the security community in Las Vegas, speaking at BSides, having talks and interviews and all kinds of things, right? Like being involved in the community, and that's what we wanted to see. And it was great. We were getting all of these folks, but we needed to interview them. We need to really figure out, are these the folks that we want on the team? We think we do, right? They're the right persona. They're matching all of that criteria that we talked about with talent acquisition. But do we actually want them on the team? And so really what it boils down to is to putting together another team, right? And initially I had no one because there was nobody on the team, right? I had to hire. But we did have other pen testing teams. We had the Metasploit team. We had our sales counterparts. We had all kinds of other teams that can actually help me to tell, is this the right person? Is this the right person culturally? Is this the right team fit, aptitude-wise, technical ability? Do you feel like you can work with them? And so put together that interview team that is multiple people, right? Whenever you interview for any of my teams, you're talking to 5 to 7 people. right? They might be 30-minute conversations, or it might be an hour with 2 people on the line, but you're talking to that many people because we want to see, is this an individual that these 7 people feel like should join the team? But not just that, they're interviewing you as much as you're interviewing them. So by putting together a team and having 7 people, they get to know more people, they get to understand the company better, they get to understand their role better. And so it's a kind of quid pro quo, right? They get something, we get something. At the end of the day, if we're going to make an offer, then they already feel like they know, they understand the team, they know players on the team, etc., right? It's like playing catch and making sure that you want to continue to play with these individuals, right? Okay. So before I go in there, there's another piece of it that was really, really important. And that's talking to your HR department. At Rapid7, you call it people strategy. And then talking to your finance department as well, right? Figuring out exactly what that pay band is for this role that you are creating, right? This wasn't a pen tester, right? As a matter of fact, the title of it is security analyst, whereas we have security consultant, senior security consultant, and principal, right? And so it didn't even have consultant attached to it yet, because we were looking for individuals that weren't necessarily a consultant that we were going to turn into consultants, right? So they helped me doing the market analysis. Does this fit within the industry? And within the industry, does the pay band fit? Is this where we can actually go and find the people that you're talking about that you want to find, right? That's really important, because then when you have somebody in front of you, go ahead.
So initially, so I understand it correctly, these individuals, given their skill level and experience level, were going to be put in like an incubator environment where you were going to grow them, nurture them, and build them into consultants, and then free them to be consultants.
It's awesome that with everything that I already said, you already got there, right? Because that's exactly what we were doing, right? I was putting together a bullpen, if you will, hello, another baseball term, right? Where people could be playing, could be catching, could be learning, could be, learning how to throw that curve, that slider, that circle change, whatever, right? And they're building their skills. And they're playing along with other experienced professionals that are already there so that they can learn from them as well. That's exactly right. That's what I wanted to accomplish, right? The tricky part here is that within that band of financials, right, they actually needed to make their own money to pay themselves, right? So they have to be billable. They have to be utilizable. That's just how our consultant organization works, right? Yes, they carry a salary, but that salary is paid out of the billable engagements that we put in front of them from quarter to quarter to quarter. And so that was a huge challenge for me to be able to say, what kind of engagements can I put these individuals on, right? And so be thinking about that, and we'll talk a little bit about it in a sec. Cool. So they're new, right? Day one, here they come. In my opinion, day one isn't day one. Day one is 2 weeks prior, right? 3 weeks prior, a week prior, whatever that period of time is, right? You're already reaching out to them. You're already saying, hey, I'm glad you're on the team. Here's some stuff that you should know. What kind of equipment do you want, right? For us, we've got 2 separate packages. You can be a Mac guy, you can be a PC guy, and then we'll give you a laptop with an image and another laptop without an image so that you can image. And so I need to figure all of that stuff out to give IT the heads up that they need to provide this for them. But it's really about welcoming them, right? For some of these folks, I made them move from Atlanta, from all kinds of places, right? And so, hey, how's the move going? Have you found an apartment? We're providing you relocation assistance. Did that come already? Like, be engaged before they land on day one, because they're already nervous about that move. They're already nervous about starting a new company. And so anything that you can do to kind of set them at ease before they even land is going to mean that when they do land, they already feel comfortable, right? If you can, if they're local, have a happy hour before they even start, right? Have the team out so that they can get to know the team in a social event and not on day one. Now they've got to remember however many names, right? Plus all the others for the office. It's an awkward situation. You guys have all been there and have all thought, God, I wish my first day was better, right? So be thinking about that for sure. Have their station already set up, right? Whatever it is that they told you they wanted, then make sure that you acquire it and that you have it set up for them and it's ready for them to use on that day one, right? We've got like dual monitor setups and stand-up desks and all of that stuff, right? Like make sure that you've got what they need. And ask them, right? Like, how do you work better? Are you a stand-up person? Are you a sit-down person? Are you a mobile person, right? You're always like, I'll set up wherever. We can accommodate all of that at Rapid7. Think about what you can do where you are and start to put that together for them so that when they get there, they don't have to waste time asking for an anti-fatigue mat or a bar stool height chair or whatever it is they need. It's there, right? They're not wasting time, not feeling like they've got to do stuff. Have a new hire journey for them, right? Make sure that you set out exactly what you want them to accomplish in that first week or in that first 2 weeks, right? Like, what does it look like to be a new hire? Work with people's strategy. Work with your office manager. Make sure that there's a tour. Have swag set out for them so that they know, like, hey, we value you. Here's some stuff that you can help us advertise out there when you're out there, right? Have expectations and keys to success, right? Like, these are all questions that all of you know or want to know whenever you land at a new job. How can I be successful here? Like, what can I do to immediately make an impact? And then already be ready for shadowing and first engagements. They're not here yet, but our lead time can be 4 to 6 weeks, which means that I can already be setting stuff up as soon as I know that they accepted the offer and that they're coming in, right? So be prepared. Just as you want them to be prepared when they first get here, you should be prepared for them as well. So, you know, these are examples of slides that I actually use for my onboarding stuff. You know, they land with at Rapid7 we're moose. It's singular and it's plural, so one moose. And so you can see them progress, right? Like they don't have any antlers, and as they're exceeding, then their antlers begin to grow. Yeah, it's quirky, yeah, it's whatever, but people notice it, right? And they see that there's effort put forth into this onboarding that is not just like, hey, click here and read this big bulleted list and, you know, here's a video, etc., right? Like, make it meaningful for your team. Help set what that personality of your team is with your onboarding materials, with the conversations that you're having, right? Help them understand what kind of team they just landed on. Here's the other snippets of slides, right? Like, keys to success. What does it mean to be successful on this team? How are we acting as a team, etc. And then that week 1 schedule, right? Like, it's not micromanaging. You can't micromanage somebody that doesn't know what they're supposed to be doing on a day-to-day basis, right? And so you've got to tell them what it is that you expect for them to do on that day-to-day. Setting up their machines, setting up internal tools, meeting people, right? All of their other roles that are going to help them to be successful here. You should be introducing them to them, right? Like, don't let them go out and figure it out, because they might miss out on something, right? So put in front of them all of the folks that you already want them to know and understand, right? And I know that they're just a representative, like we've got a ton of account executives and a ton of sales engineers. But if you find a few that you really like how they work, you really like how you work with them together, then bring them into the fold and ask them to help you onboard your team. They're going to be happy to do it, right? And so that's you know, I focus a lot on what are you going to do on the first day that you land. I've been in that timeline at places where they actually said, we don't expect anything from you for the first 6 months, right? That to me sounds ridiculous, because I'm here to work, right? I'm here to learn, I'm here to produce, I want to do better, and I want to progress. And I know that that's the kind of people that I'm hiring, because I'm hiring them, right? So I don't want to tell them like, oh yeah, don't worry about that, it'll be a few months. That just sounds ridiculous to me, especially if I'm expecting them to be billable as quickly as possible so that they can start earning their keep, right? So I want to put all of these things in front of them. And so if you look at some of the stuff on the schedule, right, there's already some shadowing. You're looking at, we've got kickoff calls, let's shadow one of those. We've got a closeout call, let's shadow one of those. We have internals, externals, wireless, whatever, all the types of engagements that we have. Let's try and get you shadowing as many of those as possible, right? Oh wait, you already come with some experience? Heck, let's put you on a billable engagement, right? Let's do a vulnerability scan with validated findings, or let's do an external if you've got that much skill, right? You'd be surprised how many developers are coming to us with OSAP already. because they're super interested. They want to know it. They want to understand it so that they can apply it to their current role. Now we're taking it out and saying, now it is your role, right? And so there were some that I was able to get billable on the third week of them joining, right? Because we were able to pair them up with somebody else that was very much experienced, or they came with enough experience that I felt comfortable putting a PM alongside with them, putting a technical writer alongside with them, that they'd be able to produce not just the soft skills, but also the deliverables that were going to make our clients happy. And the value was going to be there, right? And so you want to think about that for every single one of them. There were other individuals on the team that weren't billable for the first 6 months that they were on the team, right? And it's not because we didn't have a plan for them, it's just that their plan took a little longer, right? And so because they just needed to learn, they needed to be comfortable. And that's the other thing, right? Don't force it. If you see value in that individual, then work within that value, right? Because if you're forcing it, they're going to be frustrated, they're not going to want to do it, and you're going to lose a lot of time and a lot of investment because they're going to walk, right? And so as long as you feel like you can support it, then be supportive, right? Cool. Feel free to interrupt at any point with questions. I think it'll be all right. Training. I may be showing my age here, but some of you know who this is. The thing here is, right, is that you interviewed them. You know where they're coming from. You talked about what they wanted to learn. You asked what they already learned. And so you know them pretty well by the time they started. So you should also start to be thinking about where are the gaps and what kind of training do I need to put in front of them so that I can get them billable as quickly as possible, right? Whether it's how to write reports, or whether it's how to attack web applications or APIs or whatever other technology, right, that they want to test, then you want to put that training in front of them. At Rapid7, we have application assault, we have network assault, so those are easy to say, hey, take these, you're going to learn a ton from it, and then we will send them out to individual trainings as needed, right? So it's important, and then don't forget about yourself too. And I think that that's something that we tend to forget as people managers sometimes, is that we're so focused on everybody else, we're so focused on the business that we don't refresh our knowledge, right? My certification lapsed, or I want to go after that other thing, but when am I going to find time to do it? Carve out that time, right? Like, it's important. And then it is about that supporting cast, right? So we want to make sure, just like we talked about earlier, that bullpen was a collaborative environment, that they were actually coming into the office, right? Because it's easy to work remotely, but we wanted to ensure that everybody had the opportunity to grow. And I didn't hire 12 people on the same day, right? It was a period of about 10 months that it took to actually get to the number. And so that meant that there were folks on the team that already had a lot more experience by the time that somebody else landed. So they now become a part of that supporting cast, right? How did you order your Amex? Oh, I know, I just did it last week. Yeah, I mean, even with that, right, you need support, because it isn't always about the technical, right? The technical might actually be easier for that individual to learn on their own. Read a book, go through a course, whatever. But it's really about everything else. And so you want to have a good supporting cast. At Rapid7, we're very lucky that we have a full team of project managers to work alongside all of our consultants so they don't have to project manage. We have a team of technical writers that are helping to deliver the high quality reports. We have a stable of like 34 pen testers now, which means that any questions, right, can be asked and answered by the team. And that's not just on learning or training, it's also on a live engagement, right? If you're on site and you come across a technology that you've never tested before or you're stuck on, then you know that you've got the support of that entire team to help you through that engagement, right? And deliver that value. And so that's important, that you continue to foster that collaboration and that team identity so that they feel like they can reach out to each other and work together, right? So that supporting cast is extremely important to have. You as the manager, you have to be their plow. You have to be their defense. You've got to move barriers. You've got to make sure that they have everything they need to be successful. and then you also have to block, right? Anything that is kind of asking for their time, you've got to be aware of. And you've got to be able to say, yes, you can, or no, you can, and here are the reasons why. And don't feel bad about it, right? I think that if you do it with transparency and you let that individual contributor know why they can't go and help whatever team on this cool new thing that is being built, then they'll understand. But at the same time, don't just shut the door on things, right? Find a way to enable them to be able to do that. Maybe right now isn't the right time, but maybe a week from now or 2 weeks from now, or let's put together a week of bench time so that, thank you, so that you are working towards that, right? And then there's a goal for it in mind. And then all of this should be a scheduled maintenance, right? You don't just do it at the beginning. You should be doing it over and over and over again, right? Have weekly or bi-weekly meetings or monthly meetings, whatever works for that individual. Make it so that they own it, right? So that it's not on you, it's on them to figure out what it is that they want to talk about, how they want to grow, etc. Give them the opportunity to control what they work on, right? If all I do is put externals in front of somebody, then they're going to burn out, they're not going to want to do it anymore, they're going to walk, right? Instead, if I have a conversation with them and I find out what they are interested in, what technologies they want to test, right? Like, I want to be a red team operator. All right, well, you're here, and our red team operators are here. Let's figure out how you get there, right? But figuring that out should be a conversation, should be something that they're helping you to understand, right? Recognize and reward good work. Whether it's a beer or at Rapid 7 we give out guitar picks whenever we feel somebody did something really well. Do it, right? Like, be good about doing it, and don't do it for one person and then forget to do it for somebody else, because then they'll notice, right? So be consistent across it. Have clear expectations and then reasonable demands, right? Let them know exactly what it is that you expect on them, but then make sure that it is actually attainable, right? And the expectations shouldn't be the same across the board for your entire team, because we're all different and we all learn different and we all apply our learning different. So make sure that you're thinking about that. Provide challenges and work outside of main responsibilities, right? For me, this is really important because I've got 35 pen testers that I don't want to burn out. Consultant burnout is a real thing, right? And so what we do is that we actually carve out a percentage of their time for research, for bench time, for making sure that they are feeding themselves and not just feeding the business, right? That's really important to me. The reality of it is that because they're doing that research, they're still feeding the business, but it's really feeding their own personal growth and their own want to do this, right? We're not requiring it, they're doing it, and they're providing it in that back sense. But then, that's, let's say, 2 to 3 weeks that they didn't have to talk to a client, they didn't have to write a report, they didn't have to dress up to go on site, they didn't have to do any of those things, right? So when they do come back to it, they're going to be refreshed, renewed, they're going to feel better about doing it. And if you continue that good cycle, then you're going to get good consultants that continue to deliver good stuff, right? And then reduce the chaos and high pressure situations by planning and preparing, right? For me, that means having the PMs, having the technical writers, having the managers for escalation, having the principals that are working on our technical solutions, so that my consultants are really just thinking about their job and how they can handle that job. And they don't have to worry about all of these other things or pushes and pulls of their time, etc. And then you, right? They say, and statistics are made up of 80% false statistics or something like that. The people don't quit their job, right? They quit their managers, or they quit their leadership. And so that's why it needs to be a scheduled maintenance, right? Like, make sure that you're providing them what they need as a team, and that they're telling you, right? And also be open and ask, is there anything that I or the rest of the leadership team could be doing better, right? Like, what isn't helping? What is helping? What isn't helping? And understand that, right? Like, yeah, you need them to act when you ask them to do something, but at the same time, I also want to sit down and have beers with them, right? Because we drink. And so you've got to tote that balance, and they've got to understand that you're their advocate, but you're also requiring that they do the work, right? So find that balance and work through that. That one's not easy, for sure. What do I have? No job should be too small for you, right? That's me up in the corner over there taping our lab. We moved offices a few months ago. We went to an iconic building in downtown Austin called the Frost Tower. And we landed first in temporary space as they blew out and are building our amazing new space. We have to make do with what we had. Making do with that lab space wasn't going to work, and so we put in a little bit of effort to make it what we needed to. I needed to frost the windows because we've got client agreements that says that if I'm testing hardware, nobody else can see what we're doing. We needed to get rid of carpet and put something that wasn't going to have all the static electricity coming from it. And so when I'm talking about preparing your team space for that day one, that's exactly what I was doing, right? I was making sure that when the rest of the team landed in the Austin office, they didn't open the door to the lab and say, fuck, we got to fix this, right? I wanted them to open that door to the lab and say, hells yeah, let's get to work, right? And so all weekend, I probably was high on aerosol. Not probably, I was pretty high on aerosol. And you bring along some of the guys that want to help, because then they feel the ownership. They're going to keep the lab clean. They're going to want to work in that lab. And so, yeah, no job should be too small, right? Like whether I'm in front of our board or whether I'm on my knees putting floor down, it's all for the team, right? And that's what they should see coming from you. I don't know what my next slide is, and it ends abrupt, so I know. So all of this is to say, right, like I've been at a lot of jobs, and I've seen the good, I've seen the bad, and I've taken them all to try and make it so that the good is what my team sees as they are working at Rapid7 and progressing through it. And then questions. Yes?
Functional team alignment, agile team alignment, hybrid, somewhere in between. Where would you say your team management leadership style is at the current time?
I've led teams in all of those, and so for me, I think it's more of a hybrid. For the current team, now I'm leading a team of managers, right? So those are the folks that report directly to me, are the managers that are now kind of leading these individuals. And so we have to be very agile, but then we also have to be kind of very pragmatic with the things that we're doing and the upper management that we're dealing with and the clients that we're talking to, right? And so we're agile at the individual contributor level because I need them to pivot and pivot quickly. And so it's very hybrid. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes?
What's your thoughts on work-life balance?
Yeah. Work-life balance is a myth. I don't like the term, but I know it's important. So I'll talk about my work-life balance, right? I think that you have to manage it yourself. I don't think that you should expect your company to manage it for you. We know you as individuals, but we don't know where that stress trigger really is, and so we can help you to manage it. At Rapid7, we have unlimited vacation, and so as long as you can work that through your manager and the business, then you can be out for 2, 3, 4, 6 weeks if you need to. Our schedule, right, for our, let's just talk about our senior security consultants. They're 75% utilizable, 25% for balancing, right? See, it's not balanced. It's not 50-50, so that's why it's a myth. But that 25% allows them to then do research or take vacations or do the things that they're interested in doing so that they don't feel the pressures of the job all the time, right? For me, it's playing ball on Mondays, it's coaching on Wednesdays, playing with the Little Leaguers on Thursdays and Saturdays, and practicing again on Sundays, right? So my balance comes from being on the baseball field, and I make sure that I make time for that, right? Luckily, a lot of that time is weekends and evenings, and so that's how you have to figure out what it is that is going to reinvigorate you to get you back at work at your best, right? Any other questions? Yeah?
See the difference between the millennials
I think that there is, but I don't think that the kind of generalization is truly there, right? I've hired a lot of young kids, and I do call them my kids because they're really young, right? Like I'm 43 years old, and I'm hiring 25, 24-year-olds, right? So they're nearly half my age. And they're extremely high performing, super responsible, and they're doing really, really well to progress. Yeah.
You're choosing those because of the interview process.
That's exactly right, right? And so what helps is the fact that they've got to talk to 7 people that are going to say yay or nay, right? And so we vet those individuals and that personality and et cetera. Do we miss? Yes, right? We had to let go of somebody because after 4 weeks we realized this is not the person, right? And that's another thing, like quickly, right? Like if you know that they're going to draw away from your team, then let's not have them here, right? Like, and that's tough. You're affecting a life, but then you've got 10 other lives that you need to worry and concern about, right? And then we lost somebody else that after 4 months, they realized the consultant life isn't for me, right? Like I didn't realize I needed to go on site as often as it was happening, and we've got family and all of that stuff, and so they decided to go back to where they were before. So we do miss, it's gonna happen, but 2 out of 14 is pretty good for the year. It's a great question. Any other questions? Sweet, I'm all done. Thank you guys.